folks. Randall King here, Artistic Director of the San Jose Stage Company. Welcome to Beyond the Boards, reaching out to you from our home, away from home. San Jose Stage Company's empty theater is where I'm sitting right now, reaching into your home, staying connected as best we can while we're on hold, as it were. Today, we're going to be talking with Howard Swain, Bay Area actor who was cast in our production of Sam Shepard's The Tooth of Crime, The Second Dance. So, Howard, I want to thank you for taking the time out to step on Beyond the Boards with us here. It's interesting to get a chance to talk about the kind of stuff openly that we usually only get to talk about after an opening night or cocktails after a show or something. So it's an interesting perspective. I know we talk about our processes as we're doing it and all that, but I realized when we started putting this program together and your name came up, we were working on putting together Sam Shepard's Tooth of Crime with you as Haas. And of course, you played Crow back at Berkeley Rep some years ago. The story of rock and roll evolution, right? Uneasy sits the head that wears the crown, ask the king, you know?
Absolutely.
What's your perspective on all this in terms of coming back around as we get to do as we spend some time acting to come around full circle to another perspective on a piece?
Yeah, well, it was so interesting too. I was really, I knew that, we did it back in 1985, I guess, when we met in Execution of Justice.
Right.
That was the same season, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Tooth of Crime, it ran and then it stopped and then it ran again. And I don't know if that was after Execution of Justice or not. But I was looking at an old program of Execution of Justice, the people that were in that. And how many, there were like 30 people in that show.
It was a big one. It was co-produced by Berkeley Rep, the Eureka, and San Jose Rep.
Yeah.
It was like a tri co-production between those
was
theaters.
Unbelievable.
We performed it all summer long. They had 54 or 60 performances.
Yeah, and then we went to San Jose too, right?
Yeah. And incredible. Of course, it was rife just a few years after the events in City Hall of San Francisco. So it was still pretty raw. I remember getting death threats.
Absolutely, yeah.
Playing Dan. But yeah, that's when we met. But you're right. I seem to remember the show was in performance while we were in rehearsal for Execution. And then after we closed Execution, I thought you guys I think they remounted it.
I think it remounted for a while. Yeah. Will Marchetti. Oh, wait. And
Ken Grantham. Yeah.
Ken Grantham. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, God, that's me. What are you doing? Stop it.
Look at that.
That's Dan White, yeah.
That's Dan White.
Yeah, no, that was an incredible production. There was an honor to be a part of it, really, because they're.
And then we'd do the show, and they'd say, Diane Feinstein's here tonight. Willie Brown's here, or people that we were playing,
right,
would be there.
Freitas is here.
Freitas is here. Right. Erdelatz is here. Yeah, isn't that crazy? And it was that was a big.
Well, Oscar Eustace and Tony Duconi co-directed that together. They gave me access to everybody. I got to go talk with Frank Falzone in the very room that Dan confessed in.
Wow. Remember that time?
Yeah, it was just an amazing access that we had to do the research on it. It was so, like you say, we were playing real people. Yeah. And everyone rose to that occasion. And then back to Sam. Back to Crow, because
here we go.
Yeah, back to Crow, because Crow's the young guy who's threatening the big star rock and roller, right? And it's what I've been calling Road Warrior meets Clockwork's Orange, in its kind of context, in its first context, because Sam rewrote it, and
he didn't.
now it's
He
Truth of
didn't.
Crime, the second dance.
He
How
didn't.
does it? What's your perspective on the difference between the two texts and
Woo.
Sam going and reshaping it?
Well, we talked about. Well, he didn't just tinker with it. He rewrote it,
Yeah,
which is so bizarre. I mean, I think that the original one was written like in London, I think in the like 71 or something like that. It was a long time ago. And then I knew he had re-tinkered with it in the 90s to making this version, the second
right.
dance. And I just assumed there were little, I knew he had changed it. I just thought there were little, changes here and there or words, but I still am trying to figure out what, well, that's why he calls it the second dance, I guess. And without seeing them both in context, I think it's kind of hard to see them because as he changed as a playwright and dealing with his image and who he is, I think that comes out in approaching this piece again
No,
about.
I spent so much of my acting career finding my voice through his writing. Um, that having done True West and played both the brothers over the years, okay, it finally hit me working on Tooth of Crime recently that Sam's great writing came out of his wrestling match with himself as the Western man and as the artist. That's the wrestling match between the two brothers in True West. And I identify that wrestling match between Crow and Haas and that sense of wrestling with fame. And once you've got it, how do you attain it, or do you even want to, Uh, and of course, the older I get, the more my perspective changes. When you get to play, or you want to play Biff, and then you end up coming back and actually playing Willie,
Yeah,
your perspective shifts because your initiation to it is on a younger context,
right.
younger characters. And that fascinates me, especially with a play like this. You came in, I have to tell everyone, Howard came in for Sam Shepard's Tooth of Crime. We were talking with Tony Kelly, the director, who we'll have on this series eventually here. Howard comes in with his guitar. We're talking. And he said, "You guys want to hear a song?" And you went over and you sat down on the edge of the Chicago set with your guitar and you were tuning it. And I thought, this is what's great about the audition process. Sometimes we don't know when the actor's auditioning or not. Howard goes up and sits on that set and just playing with the guitar in his lap. And I think he already started, and he's just kind of tuning it up. And he goes, "I'm going to sing a little song now. Can't Find My Way Home." The perfect song. Song for this character. And it was just amazing to watch you fold into it. You had the complete room. It was just great to watch you set us up.
Wow.
This is my Haas, and we knew that you were our Haas, but it was just fascinating to watch your organics. And that's what's great about you as an actor. No matter what character you're doing, Howard, it's so honest and
Wow.
so real and so in the moment.
Wow.
That makes it always a pleasure to be out on the boards with you in that regard. Anyway, I'm not here to flatter you, but I just realized this is an unusual opportunity, and get that chance when we do come back on the boards and we do put Tooth the Crime up, that you're going to be playing the other generational element of it. And I don't know what I can pull out of you to say about that, but it's because you haven't experienced it yet.
Yeah, well,
Just talking about it,
and just thinking, I'm still, I keep picking that script up, and I keep, every time I read the second one, I see it in a different way. That, well, back, in the 70s, you had the rocker, I don't know, Jerry Lee Lewis and the Gene Vincents, and then you get this kind of his nemesis became like like a Prince type thing with the flowery shirts and the show, and then 20, and then if you had done it 10 years after that, you would have had the Prince character being the Hoss now, and the punk kid, the shaved head kid coming up and battling him. And then then he would be the top dog, and then you'd have like the electronica, you know, beats coming and rap to replace that, and it's just this constant
Evolution.
evolution. Yeah, the killer in town that gets called out by the new guy that would have never existed
Without the old guy.
without the old guy, because it morphs into that. So the new guy is kind of an extension of the old guy, and then that's what you're faced with, I think.
That's the reflection, yeah.
And then
Yeah, you just brought up something I'd never thought of, but I remember when Prince hit the scene, that to me, he would not have existed on that with those qualities and sound if it hadn't been for Hendrix.
exactly. Oh,
Okay, so it's like it's a sense of, it would be interesting to see this tooth of crime scene unwrap with those two actual entities coming face to face. Of course, they're both gone now, but that's very much the context of this piece, Tooth of Crime. And I think what Sam did, going back into it, Howard, is I think he brought more socio-political element to it. Whereas the original version was more rock driven and conflict driven, that there's subtleties in here now that really hit home.
oh,
When I read the rewrite, that he was going into it in the mid 90s. I think he's hearing the dog whistles that we were hearing about where we were going socio-politically. And that's really something that I'm realizing now. It's always been the undercurrent, and every once in a while someone whistles it up. But not to be morose,
no,
but
no.
there's a socio-political underline and through line to just about everything we do as theater artists. So,
There were a lot of things about that first Tooth of Crime. They were very clever. They were very whimsical. They were very entertaining. He had a doo-wop group. All the guys came back, do a little doo-wop thing. Becky had this long, odd monologue. They were all a little more, in a way, a little more cartoony in their presentation. I think I'm stripping all that off. I'm taking all that off. And then I was just I keep rereading the endings of each of they have a battle.
right.
They meet the challengers there, like, and Hoss he wants to learn from it. He doesn't, Hoss a little out of the loop, and he's trying to glean stuff, but he's not going to put up with any, and we're going to have a battle. Okay. And then at the end of the first one, he's like, I'm done. I don't belong here. And I'm going to take this on myself. I'm going to beat you now, Crow, by putting this gun to my head. And it was a gun back.
Right.
Because I can't lose. And I don't lose. This is how I'm going to beat you here. And, whether he does or not, I don't know. But in his mind, because he comes from a kind of a real place. There's the blues and this thing that just created where then it becomes all about image. There's a little side thing. It was an interesting thing on one of the T-Bone Burnett interviews or something I watched. Once the 70s kind of started, mid 70s, he said, he was talking about bands would come out and they'd, trying to get an audience, and like they dye their faces green, to be weird, and no one really paid attention.
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to all be robots, or something, or now we're going to be hippie people, and if your song catches on and you become big and money comes in, that's who you are. That becomes you, and it might not really be you. I think that's a lot what he's dealing with too. That you're stuck in this image you got to maintain. And then I read the end of the second dance, and it becomes, in a way, he becomes facing himself at the end, and he realizes that there's some splits in there. Am I my image? I'm not my image. That's not me. And that he kind of releases himself. That's how he separates his image from his true self.
It is really his only "this is me" moment.
Yeah.
A sure moment of "this is
and
me."
to take a knife. Now he takes a knife.
Yeah.
And I don't. The first one seems to be more of a defeat for him, and this one, it is a defeat ultimately. But he seems to go off on a. That's how he wins this one, I think.
The second dance, the ending of the second dance, and that difference. And matter of fact, when you start reading it and you realize when Becky comes out and unrolls the weaponry for the battle of the battle of the bands, in the original, they're sawed-off shotguns, knives, weapons in that bundle of hardware.
Yeah.
And now it's tech equipment. It's there's there's a guitar neck. There's nothing really super violent in the bundle of weaponry. And you go, wait a minute, where are we going with this? But I think he heightens that sense of where it goes in those final moments, which is to say, I've been on top. I'm in control of the top. See if you can handle it, kid. That's the thing I got is here goes the crown. You see how you hold up in day hole, but I got to also say that when I heard Sam had gone back in and rewrote Buried Child, a Pulitzer Prize piece of literature, what's he doing? Well, it's his baby. He can go back and rewrite it. And then we actually got a chance to do it. And looking at cross-referencing, like you said, you've done with Tooth, I had a hard time identifying what he did. There was probably a half a dozen, maybe 9 subtle changes that he put in that rewrite of Buried Child that made it somehow more accessible, I think. And I think it's really odd to go back in when you create a child like a play and say, it didn't grow up the way I wanted it to. I've got to fix it. I really admire that. Really admire that.
Is that an artist? That's just an artist working on, if Da Vinci looked at the Mona Lisa, he'd probably, let me fix this. I always wanted to fix that. And when they did Angels they just remounted Angels in America here at Berkeley Rep, and Sunkel worked on it. So I was talking to Michael Sunkel, the stage manager,
Michael.
And he said that Tony Cush, that play, well, it's about as old, but he kept bringing in changes every day, and they had to tell him, you can't come to rehearsal anymore. He said, this scene never worked. It never worked. I fixed it. So he was still working on, and I bet, if Sam was working on a show now, now let's cut that and change this, and
yeah. Let's talk a little about your work with Sam, or your personal relationship, if we may, at the Magic. what was it like? I mean, in terms of having his energy in that building, pushing plays and
Woo,
getting to work on them.
woo. Well, the Magic Theater then had two spaces.
Right.
So the I forget which side. I think the south side was the one that Sam and Robert Woodruff. They were kind of a team. Robert Woodruff was the director, and then you get into these two. They were kind of like the brothers in a way too, Robert and Sam, and they would kind of co-direct. They would change things. They would get in fights. They would yell at each other, and eventually they broke up. And I think neither of their work has kind of reached back up to where it was. There was something about them just being together, but the Magic Theater was doing mostly kind of European, absurdist, surreal, Arabelle and Wolfgang Bauer kind of stuff, which was what, and also Sam was doing a lot of his kind of surreal early work, Killer's Head,
Oh, I
and
did that one, yeah.
Action, and like, what the hell is going on? And so he was usually on one side of the theater, and we were on the other side. I never got to be in a Sam. I auditioned for a lot of them, and I got close, but but we knew who Sam was, and so we would, if there was ever a break, we would run over to their side of the theater and just sit in the back and watch Sam direct, and uh, he would be right down at the bottom of the stage, telling people things the whole time.
So
And,
you were there for Fool for Love.
oh
With,
yeah, oh
with William
yeah,
Arquette and Ed Harris.
Ed Harris and Dennis and Kathy Baker. Yeah, I got to do stuff with Kathy Baker. Oh man, that was we would go. Like, what are you doing tonight? Well, I'm staying for the show. I'm staying for Fool for Love. Well, you already seen it like 3 times. I know, but it's always different because they were crazy. They were crazy. We would walk around that set. The set was made. It's a hotel room. Uh, it was a solid. He had construction people come in, and it was like a house. So the walls were like real walls, and so if you threw something against the wall, it didn't shake or anything. It was a real wall. The doors had these weird drums on it, so when you closed or opened a door, it would kaboom, make this weird kaboom. But we would go over. One time, yeah, we go over. Sam would be teaching Ed Harris how to lasso.
Lariat? Lasso.
Yeah, they would do that for hours, like little kids. They just, like, can we rehearse now? No, no. One time, Ed Harris, the blocking was different every night, whatever they were doing. One time, Ed Harris, he had a cowboy boots and he had spurs on. I think maybe it says that. And he was flying around the room, and he jumped up and he kicked the wall, and his spur dug like an inch into the wall. And so he was just standing there with his foot like on the floor with his foot stuck in the wall. And we were kind of laughing, and they were dealing with it, and he was trying to get it out. And eventually he had to leave his boot in the wall for the rest of the play.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
They were doing. Oh, yeah. I don't know. It was wild. Ed did something to Kathy Baker one night and kind of picked her up and threw her across the room, and then you could see she was a little hurt. Something had happened, and Sam ran down to the front of the stage, and Woody ran down to the front of the stage. They were talking to her like, "Are you okay? Can we go on?" And she was, "Yeah, we'll go on." Ed Harris carried her in his arms for the rest of the show. Just carried her around in his arms. And it was this whole new play.
Wow. Yes.
It was wild, and they were like, "We'll cancel it." You could hear him, like, it was during the show. Sam was like, "Hey, what's going on? Ed, what, you're out of your mind." "Yeah, I know. Sorry, man. What do we do? Okay, let's keep going." "All right."
Well, talking about Ed Harris at the Magic, I just watched a film I highly recommend to anyone, especially on the Memorial Day weekend. I watched a film called The Last Full Measure, and
Mm-hmm.
Ed Harris gives a performance in this film. Amy Madigan's in it as well, plays Peter Fonda's wife. Samuel Jackson's in it. It's a story about an Air Force medic who they're trying to award the Congressional Medal of Honor posthumously to him. And Ed Harris plays one of the men who was in the firefight that this Air Force medic gets killed in. And his performance in this it alone is worth watching the movie for, but it is a great story. It's a true story of American valor and doing the right thing. And I watched it and I got, God, Ed, he is always clears the bar, man. And by then some,
Those
uh,
those guys, it all came from that. I don't know. I keep trying to, they were like our eye. We are kind of afraid of them because they were crazy. Because that's who they were. These weird LA kind of tough guys, where that image is just so connected to, who they were. A lot of actors, I'll be a tough guy in this show, and I'll be a
right.
wimpy guy in this show. They just carried their own kind of macho LA suburbia tough guy, San Bernardino street kid with his souped up car. There'd be fights, and they'd get in argument, and they took it all. There wasn't a lot of goofing around. They were like big kids, but there was no sense of, oh, this is going to be a hit. This is going to be a really good show. They didn't care. They could. It was also interesting at that time in San Francisco. There wasn't the internets, and
Right.
you didn't know there could be underground scenes going on that no one really knew about in Chicago or L.A. And up here, Herb Cain wrote for the San Francisco Chronicle, and they would just badmouth L.A. We don't want to be L.A. L.A. sucks. We don't want to be New York. New York sucks. We're doing our shows about here and now. And I remember the critics, not, they weren't that great of reviews or anything because they didn't know what to make of it. They didn't know what was going on, and nobody cared. The theater would be packed because they wanted to see what's the new. I have some posters of the early seasons that it just said, it doesn't have the titles of any plays on it because they weren't written yet. It just says a new play by Sam Shepard, a new play by Murray Mednick, a new play by. But John Lyon, who ran the Magic Theater, then just knew these are my playwrights. We're not doing show. Ooh, that was a hit in New York, so let's do it here. That probably wouldn't have worked. But now I'm getting back to. They took it very seriously.
Right.
It wasn't goofing around. This was all kind of life and death stuff. And we heard, so I wasn't there. Some guy goofing around or something, and Sam kept telling him, "Don't goof around," And then the guy kept goofing around. "Don't goof around." There was a fight, and Sam broke his jaw. As the direct, yeah, like, "I told you not to fight." Okay, you should have learned. It wasn't goofing around. It was really big. And then yeah, so I got to hang out with him a lot. We'd all go to the bars afterwards and hang out and watch
Let
him
me ask,
grow
let me ask
up.
you a question, though, in terms of what you're talking about, the very perspective of an experimental environment. I think of Cowboy Mouth and Killer's Head, where it says you you pause for 1 minute, not to exceed 1 minute. Okay. And you're blindfolded, you're sitting in an electric chair. All you've got to relate to the audience with is your ears, And one night I held that pause to listen for a cough or a chair to squeak. The stage manager came back after the show, and it's just a one act, right? It's a little 3 or 4 page piece, right? Randy, you held that pause for 1 minute and 42 seconds.
Wow.
I said, well, I didn't hear anyone cough or squeak the chair, so I just.
It's going.
Sam says not to exceed 1 minute.
Oh.
Okay. But I really, my point is how do you think that experimental world of theater impacted? And this could be a redundant question, but what was Sam's influence on American theater?
Oh, geez. What you were just saying, I'll try to get into there. Jim Charles Dean,
Yes.
who played Hoss in the 85 production of Berkeley Rep, he did a lot of things with Sam as well. He told a story of, they're doing one of Action or Killers, had one of these weird kind of out there plays, and said Sam came back at intermission and said, let's just blow off the second half. Let's just blow it off. And we're going to tell the story of the play through our exercises we do, our stage exercises.
Okay.
And everyone, Jimmy Dean said, everybody went, oh, okay. And Jimmy Dean was like, what the hell? What do you mean? Well, we're going to do our, they did, space exercises and movement things. And so we can't do that. And they were like, yeah, we can. Don't worry. And he said they went out and, laid on the floor and hummed and did mirror exercises and did things. And they said the audience went crazy. They loved it. And Jimmy was like, what the hell? But I think you had that audience that was ready to do that. They knew, they'd been to those kind of things. They'd seen his stuff before. Okay. Oh, they're telling it in some kind of weird way. And then, and taking these, like a pause you were talking about, how long this pause. The night, I don't know what we were doing. We were rehearsing and we ran over because we really wanted to see, it was opening and we were in the last row for Buried Child. And I knew nothing about it. I hadn't seen any rehearsals for it or anything. I had auditioned for it. I was angry I wasn't in it. But lights go down. Okay, Sam said something, everybody's walking around and talking and the lights go down. And my mind just, to take that absurdist, surreal, I had no idea what was going on. It was this black, I thought this is a mistake. It just was dark. And then you could see this kind of faint glow on stage of a, was it a spaceship or was it was it a 3D image of a ghost? And this went on for it seemed like 10 minutes of just, where are we? And then it's like, oh my God, that's a guy's face. That's a guy on stage there. He's watching TV in this weird, but to take these moments and just stretch them out into these, surreal, it covers these crazy landscapes. And my brain was just exploded. And then the play kind of started. I think just to take those leaps of
faith,
of just extension, to take these things so far.
He's good at that. He was great. Yeah. Like I say, for me, it was Sam Shepard that opened the first door as an actor to myself in a way that really anchored me in the organics where above and beyond learning the lines, the organics of finding the dynamics and the rhythms and it was really bizarre working. My first Shepard piece was Curse of the Starving Class. In the stack of plays that the Underdog City Ensemble was considering doing, one was Tooth of Crime, one was Curse of the Starving Class. I forget the third one. I think it was Cowboy Mouth. And Curse was the one I was attracted to. What I didn't realize was it was the one I identified with the most because it was the closest to home for me, really. Finally, a friend of mine said, what's your problem with this, man? This is your life story, you know? And once that door opened, it gave me access to those things that you've got to work on as an actor to access. That was a door that, I mean, really, Sam helped me kick it open, you know? And I've always felt I understood the terrain that he was writing in, you know? He and Mamet, both. One's urban, one's rural, from my perspective, but okay, I got another question for you.
All right.
They just handed me one.
Okay, but I don't know what I was getting. Yeah. But I think you're absolutely right that he hit where a lot of people were at that time and expressed that at this being here and now, and all of his, getting to know him a little bit, and you'd, see these weird stories, on stage, and then you'd realize, getting to know him, that they're all pretty much, they're real stories inside that kind of stretched out reality, and they're all very, very personal to him, and that's why you don't screw around. But I think because it was so personal, that's why it could touch, you and me and be so real.
Yeah.
So you did Curse.
Yes, we did actually the first one I did was I said with the earliest incarnation of the San Jose Stage Company, which was the Underdog City Ensemble, and that was Curse of the Starving Class that we did it at San Jose State. They allowed us to come in and use what was then the Hal Todd Theater. That show hit really big because, like you were saying earlier, the events at theater, especially in the late 60s, early 70s, it was about a happening. It was a happening, man. You went to see what was going to happen. You didn't have to have the title. You just had to have the experience. And that's where I think all of that evolved, especially in San Francisco, where once I think ACT told Sam, you can do your shows here, but you can do them in the basement. And he took them, I believe, over to John Lyons and became the success he was there. I was a little surprised because I remember hearing back then that he said, ACT will never do one of my plays. And so I was a little surprised to hear some years later when they were doing Buried Child, we were trying to do it and they pulled it. So I was like, I thought he was never going to let them do one of his plays, but
wow,
God love him. But yeah, Curse was the introduction to it. True West, where I was actually preparing to do Lee, and James Carpenter was going to play Austin. And when I got back down from Portland, Oregon, doing Little Foxes, he and I were reading, and Ken Keller was directing it, and he goes, would you? And I said, let me think about it overnight, because I knew what he was going to say, because Jim Carpenter always played the bookworm, the ingenue, I mean, he's handsome as hell, so he was always the leading handsome man. And I always played the desert rats, the dirt bags, the scary guys. So I thought about it overnight and said, let's do it. Let's switch parts. We switched parts.
How late into rehearsal did that happen?
It was the first day.
Oh, okay.
The first day, I remember stepping off the stage was about a 1 foot rise, and I was stepping off it. Ken went, Randy, I'm thinking, I said, before my foot hit, I know what you're thinking.
Wow.
I'm thinking it too. And he was incredible. I mean, he was incredible. I'm thinking right now, because it's warm, we were down the street in an un-air conditioned building, and it was hot as hell. And there's a scene, the drunk scene, where they're both just pissed off and drunk as hell. And all the drawers get emptied, and it was just a mess. And we're rehearsing this, and Jim crawls over to the refrigerator and opens it and pulls all the shelves out, okay? Pulls all the shelves out and then flings the door all the way open and sits in it like a throne. And I just went, wow. I mean, that's one of those moments in rehearsal where you just boom. But I said, where did he come up with that one? Man?
Wow.
Just that sort of energy. And then a few years later, or many years later, a few years back, recently, I realized I hadn't played Lee. I'd played Austin, but I hadn't played Lee, and I was probably 42, 43 years old. I thought I'm too old, but I got to do him. So I got a chance to do Lee with Rod Knapp, played Austin here in this facility here at the stage. And it was just great to get like I was saying earlier, to get that chance to look at a play from another character, you know.
That's amazing.
That was tremendous. So we've done True West twice. We've done Buried Child, Fool for Love, which Allison Rich was in with, and I played the old man in that. In the chair and watched that one. It was great. Rob August played Eddie, and I brought my friend in from the Alaska State bull riding champion, Jesse Taylor, great guy, Paiute Indian. So he came down and taught Rob August how to lasso.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. That's a great part of the show. And just like you said, we had 2x4 walls. We had real.
Oh wow, maybe that's what's called for in there. Yeah.
I mean, you got to do it because you're getting thrown. People, it's rough and tumble in there. Spurs are a big issue. All kinds of stuff. But I'm sure Allison's listening. She's monitoring this call. She's probably listening to this discussion about Fool for Love going, oh my God, I was so sore. I can't show you all the scars. But it was a great production. I mean, Sam's rough terrain, but man, if you can survive one of his plays and you tell it honestly, it's the most rewarding. I mean, it's so rewarding to walk through his world, you know, the world he creates. Yeah. What other have we done?
Have you done Henry Moss?
No. I'd like to do that one.
Well, you know, a lot of people thought, I saw it, boy, 9 months into its run or something here, when it was here with all with Nick Nolte and Sean Penn and everybody.
Woody Harrelson and
Cheech Marin and James Gammon. But a lot of people were, you know, it's covering the same material, and I don't know. But I love the fact that he's covering the same material. He's still wrestling with that. And now the dad is dead. He's still there. The body's right there, but he's dead finally. You know, I don't know if he would have written another one.
It's like the kid's monologue. It's like it made me think of the kid's monologue in Buried Child, where he talks about driving in the rain and seeing the reflection of his father and his grandfather and in the image of his reflection in the window, and how you connect to the generations, and that's a really prevalent theme in his work. Thread through that work in terms of how I call it the sins of the fathers that go back generationally. There's something about our culture, I don't think, that looks at that in a way that reinforces us. We don't look back to our ancestors to strengthen us.
No.
We look back to them in more of a nostalgic sense. But there are cultures I really admire who muster that sense of that reflection that Sam sees in the window in the rain in a way that gives us strength, you know? I don't think we've learned that. And Sam, I think, wrestled with it.
Absolutely. And he was.
That's what makes great writers, man. They
wrestle. He was still wrestling with it, but he had moved a little bit on. And the night we saw it, the guy came out and said, you know, well, sorry, you know, tonight Sean Penn just didn't show up that night. And they said, you know, sorry, you know, or in the audience was, no, boo, boo. And, you know, going on for Sean Penn will be Rod Knapp. And he was fantastic.
He's a great actor.
He was so good. Oh, it was amazing. Yeah, they were all really good. They went for it.
Can I share a Rod Knapp moment with you?
Yeah.
May I? We were doing True West, and I'm playing. Now he's Austin, and I'm Lee, right? And top of the second act, Lee's got the golf clubs from Saul, the agent, right? So Lee's swinging the driver as the lights come up on act 2, and he's got 3 or 4 balls on the floor to putt. And Rod's up center stage washing dishes, all pissed off at his brother for hustling his agent, right? And I grabbed my first ball, and the cup's over there by Rod's counter there, and I tapped it in the cup. It just rolled right across the ashtray, right in the cup. He looks at me like, I got the second ball. Yeah, well, I want him fair and square. And I tap the second ball, it goes right in the cup, right across in the cup. And we're going on with the dial. I says, no, I want him fair and square. And I tap the third ball, goes right into the cup. And I get the fourth ball and I tap it, man. Rod comes steaming down to the end, and as it was going into the cup and snapped it up. It was just one of these beautifully spontaneous moments where the aggravation of each other on the levels that we were playing it was just, Rod was like, I'm not going to let you sink that fourth one. No, I never did it again. It was just one of those, one of those moments where I just, it was like the balls were on threads. I'm not a very good golfer. I've done some
beautiful,
but it was just, I swear to God, but it is still one of my, because of the way Austin Rod reacted to it. We were able to spin that energy into strangling each other at the end.
You're pissing me off.
Worth its weight in gold. And Rod Knapp is one of the, he's another one of those guys. You go out with him, hold on.
Yep, that's right.
Anyway, I don't know if I covered all the Sam that we did, but I said,
that's good.
He's one of our favorite writers.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we did Fool for Love. We had an open slot in the season. When Sam passed, I just said, we got to do Fool for Love.
Yeah.
We've always wanted to do it. He's not here now. It's time. It's sad that we're doing it now, but it forced our hand on it, and we're so glad we did it. It was just, it's sad losing people you grow up with, no matter if they're personal to you or you've just experienced them through your work, Yeah.
I know. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's an era. He defined an era without even trying to. They came to him, kind of.
Yeah.
He just put it out. Now I'm writing these things, and they caught on.
Yeah.
Made everybody interested. Yeah.
Well, that said, it's obvious that his impact was incredible, because we're still talking about him. We're still doing his work. And I don't know, wherever you are, thank you, man, for all that great shit, for all that great stuff.
Yep.
For opening our conscience to the shattered American dream and its potential reparations.
I was up late night watching, just TV, and there was an old episode of Laugh-In, Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In.
Yeah.
And they were just doing some. I've tried to find it since then, and it didn't. And they were, and now the Holy Modal Rounders, which was a band that Sam was in back then, and wow. I was like, oh my, they're really crazy, they're really wild, psychedelic-y, but there was this tall, skinny 17-year-old kid banging away on those drums back there. That was Sam.
Right.
He's been on Laugh-In.
Well, yeah. Cool. I did not know that, man. That's a good one.
That's a good one. It must be somewhere. Sam would do, there'd be posters all over North Beach there near the intersection that he would do stuff at. It said, new show by Sam Shepard, Drum Wars. Like, what? Drum Wars. Oh, we're going. Drum Wars, yeah. A little poster, and we went. We didn't know what to expect. And there were 4 drum sets on stage. And, okay, then the lights came down. And then Sam was at one, and they drummed for like 2 hours. That was the show. they just drummed, and then they say thank you, and everyone applauded, and we had a great time. But he just wanted to drum with
It's
his
primal,
friend.
man. It's
Yeah.
primal. The
Oh,
primal scream.
it was amazing. Yeah.
Hey, Howard, thank you so much, man, for taking the time to talk to us and just
Oh,
shooting the breeze.
anytime.
Looking forward to, and we're trying to figure out how to stay connected to our patrons, to our supporters, to
Yeah,
our audience, to
absolutely,
give them
absolutely.
something. And we don't know how it keeps coming up. What can we do with Tooth of Crime? I don't think it lends itself to anything virtual. Maybe we can set up a read somewhere down the line. We could be
Yeah,
doing this
yeah,
for a
yeah, yeah,
while
yeah, yeah.
and get together, and Allison's playing Crow, you're playing Haas, fill out that cast and do a stage reading somewhere down the line virtually to give a taste of it to our audience. And impromptu some music, maybe,
Yeah, that'd be fun to just explore anyway.
Yeah, if anyone out there is watching and they're interested in that, let us know. We'll try to put that
Yeah.
together. Okay. Uh, thanks again, Howard. You stay safe. Everyone, stay safe.
You too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of San Jose. Yeah. And I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah. Can't wait. Can't wait, my friend.
All right.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks a lot.